Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the 20-page short story. It's the next one in this book. It's by C. Dean Anderson. It's called The War Skull of Hel. It's the third short story in this Pawn of Chaos book for you folks. This is the first one that doesn't deal with Elric. It has Elric in it at one point in time in this 20-page short story. And then it also introduces a new eternal champion set in a plane of existence that's based on Norse mythology. And in this case, the aspect of the eternal champion is an older woman who turns into a lycanthrope, werebear like the Norse berserkers often did, right? At that time, and she has runes like berserkers and such. So you can definitely tell that's sort of like her genre. She's called Bloodsong, and so forth. And she's definitely a fighter for the good fight against the goddess Hel. In this case, that's her main struggle and constant threat that she's dealing with. Right, so that's sort of what's happening in this. I like this actually a lot, this concept and so forth. I like the fact that this is set in eternal champion mythos, as we've already talked about before, which was created by Michael Moorcock in 1996. And then this collection was printed in 1996 and only published stories that were actually published for this of all the various characters that are out there. Right now, his most popular one was Elric, the albino person from a race of characters and such that is with the white skin and the red eyes and such from the pale complexion tiny guy from a race of evil people called the Melnibegans, and he is their prince and so forth, and he ends up having a major issue that he has a pangs of consciousness despite the fact he's from this major evil alien elven race, right? Just like Stewart, right, and such, right? So that's obviously his key character, although he created lots of different series based around different characters and such, and there actually is a female character in the Champion of Garethorn, which I've already read for you and reviewed for you. So that actually happens here and there too, already and such in the 70s. Right, this was created in the 60s and 70s. It's a multiversal conflict between law and chaos, where the Eternal Champion is an avatar of that conflict, right, and such. So that's where this is coming from and such. So that's where this writer comes from. He's basically creating a new version, and he has Ulrich, another member who has a one-book thing that gets introduced to it, right, and such. So that's kind of cool. I like it. I thought it was kind of interesting to have a different take on it and such, and having it in a different world that was brand new to the Eternal Champion. So he's adding to it rather than just using characters but then making them weird, right? For example, the previous short story in this, which I just read a couple of nights ago and reviewed for you yesterday, I'm probably going to go back and read. I gave it a 6 because I thought that it was it was clearly an Elric one, right? It didn't have great battle scenes and such early on the naval battles. It just skipped from point to point to point. It didn't actually tell the battles very well. It was really long. It had a lot of mature content, and you can tell it was probably 1996, right? Because the mid-90s were clearly about taking characters that already existed or brand new ones, and then making them darker, edgier for the times, right? Wolverine, Lobo, Ghost Rider, Punisher, all these characters, right? And that's just comics alone, right? And two companies, right? You also saw it in cartoons. You also saw it in movies. You also saw it in television. You also saw it in books and short stories and so forth. So this mid-90s, and here's what my issue is with, and I realized this after thinking about it for a night. I gave it a 6, but it feels like Elric was already a dark and edgy character. He was one of the first major anti-heroes, right, in fantasy. He's hugely influential, right, and such. And so taking him, he kills friends, he kills family, accidentally in some cases, and such, and not in others, right? He's not a good guy, right? But taking him and making him darker and edgier feels a little bit like a spoof, but it's not read like a spoof. It feels like it's supposed to be taken seriously, like mid-90s stuff is. So it feels like in 1990s, I'm going to make this already, adult anti-hero into an even darker and edgier. So it doesn't feel right. That's why, I talked about the fact that I didn't feel like it was a very more cocky take on this character. Right? It's a different author, it should be. But it did for a guy who's already dark and edgy, right? So I felt like it was an even darker and edgier take. So I'm dropping my review from yesterday to a 4, probably. And I'll post that in the comments below if you when I go back, because I feel like that's a key thing, having a day afterwards and so forth. But I love this. This is my favorite short story in here so far. You can tell that this guy has written some things. He's written 5 fantasy novels. He's written some horror novels like I Am Dracula and such. So he's written some horror stuff too. You can tell that this guy has some experience writing. I like that he's bringing something different and there's something new to say, right, with new characters and new concepts, and bringing in Ehrlich, who's not a major character, only had one novel. He said in an ice world in the far future, after some post-apocalyptic things have happened, and he is like a polar bear, carts that pull him and such, right? Chariot and such. That's kind of cool. He's a guy. We just went back and read that novel for you too. So that's kind of fun stuff. I like that he's only pulling out this guy too. So he's adding more to the Ehrlich stuff too, because he only was a 1-book novel. So I like that he's pulling in some stuff right there and adding characters, adding planes, and so forth. He's adding to it rather than just saying, "Oh, I'm going to take these tools that already exist, but make them play with them and make them darker and edgier that were already darker and edgy." Right? So I prefer this one. It's my favorite short story so far of these 3. So I'm giving them 7.5. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I read it last night in 20 pages. I wanted to read more. I was wishing that it was longer, or that it was the first chapter of a novel, right, and so forth. So I like this one. The War Skull of Hel, set in Norse mythology against the evils and machinations of Hel. And Hel in this case is the Norse goddess of death that runs the underground of Hell, not H-E-L-L, from Christian mythology. Just as a reminder, although you probably know that now from Norse mythology being a little bigger now, since Thor became a character in the MCU, and pop culture probably knows her more. And she's the main villain, if you recall, in Thor Ragnarok 3 in MCU. So she's probably somebody that everybody already knows. But just as an FYI, that's who this person is. That's being name called, and is the primary antagonist. So there, I'll go ahead and leave it to you. Have you read The War Skull of Hel? If you so, what'd you think about it? Did you agree or disagree with my 7.5? 10, let's talk about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button? There'll be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing in watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.